We're here at the University of Tampa in Southwest Florida with biochemistry professor Michael Carastro. He and his team are conducting some really interesting research using something called poly-E in treating cancer, and he's going to tell us about it. Thanks for having us, Professor Carastro.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, it's a really technical, involved, in-depth, scientific topic.
It is.
But break it down for us. What exactly is poly-E?
Poly-E is a standardized proprietary blend of the polyphenols that are found in green tea extract, which is essentially everything that's in green tea except the caffeine.
And there's not a lot of caffeine in green teas.
There's
as
not.
compared with coffees or energy drinks.
I'd say anywhere from about 20 to 30% of the caffeine you would find in a standard coffee drink is what you find in green tea.
So if I've been doing things like going to the store and grabbing green tea and drinking a ton of cups of tea, have I done anything to help ward off cancer?
Oh, absolutely. Green tea's been known for thousands of years to have many health benefits. It actually has what we call pleiotropic effects, which means it has lots of different effects. It decreases heart attack and stroke risk. It decreases inflammation. It decreases cancer risk for many different organ sites. So it has lots of health benefits.
Different brands and qualities of green tea will give you different amounts of the ingredients.
So your research in the poly-E derivatives from green tea, they've been found to prevent cancer, or what's the correlation with cancer and the prevention of cancer?
There's a number of clinical trials that are currently ongoing and are in late stages where they're looking at organ sites all over the body, including prostate cancer, which is the one that we're focusing on, where they treat people with green tea extracts.
How are they introducing the poly-E? Is it topically? Is it an injectable? How does that work?
So in the animal and human studies, it's oral. The studies that we're doing in the human cancer cell lines, we actually put it in the culture media with the cells.
Poly-E acts in several main pathways. They inhibit the growth of virus cells and promote the cells to undergo a form of cellular suicide.
There is also a general antioxidant effect that prevents oxidative damage to particular DNA.
I drink green tea for the antioxidants just because I've read a bunch about that and free radicals and how just the act of breathing releases these free radicals in our body and it damages our cells. That's how that works, right?
All day long.
Yeah.
All day long.
So just the act of breathing, we're ruining our
breathing
bodies.
and eating food. Yes.
Kind of important.
Right.
To
If you
survival.
want to keep living, exactly.
That's why antioxidants are good for us.
Right.
One of the things I found so fascinating is you were talking about sun exposure and how the topical application of the poly-E reduces that effect if it's applied before and even after sun exposure.
So those studies that were done in mice, it was actually the green tea extract. So the whole extract, including the caffeine. And they did it with both the green tea extract and pure caffeine. And they found that when they applied the caffeine solution or the green tea extract solution to the skin of these mice, either before exposing to ultraviolet C radiation or if they applied it after, they saw large reductions in the number of what they call cryptic sites, which are the beginning of a skin cancer.
Now, is that something that people could do with green tea or caffeine, like rub coffee grounds on their skin before they go lay at the beach?
And in fact, I understand that Revlon's had a product out for several years where they put caffeine into an anti-wrinkle cream.
Well, I've heard that it can be used to reduce things like cellulite. As far as caffeine, they had it in body scrubs, different things like that. But who knew that if you applied it topically, it would help with cancer?
A benefit to the polyphenols that's a bit of a drawback with caffeine. Caffeine is the sort of thing where you could potentially get too much exposure to caffeine. Some people are sensitive to it, which is one of the reasons why polyphenol E and green tea polyphenols in general are so attractive, because they don't have that drawback.
But what's the takeaway from all of this research? I mean, because obviously you're still doing studies and things like that, but for the average viewer and person at home, I mean, should they start drinking more green tea, more coffee?
So I think that the takeaway is that there are lots of potential benefits of not only drinking coffee that contains caffeine, but probably even more so green tea, because it has not only the caffeine, it has the polyphenols in it
and the
as
antioxidants,
well.
as we mentioned, yeah.
And our hope through our work that we're doing in conjunction with our colleagues at Moffitt is that in using cell culture models, as well as some of the animal models that have been used, that we'll be able to define what are the changes in gene expression that are associated with these benefits.
We speak with Dr. Zhang Park, Associate Professor at Moffitt Cancer Center.
I'm interested in the prostate cancer because it's the most common cancer site among men. It's 1 out of 6 men we are expecting to have a prostate cancer in their life.
A Japanese green tea company contacted Dr. Park to research potential cancer prevention in animals.
So I said, yes, I can do that. So we order tramp mouse. They're going to get the prostate cancer by the time around 8 weeks, and then they will be terminal at the 30 weeks. When we find out, we actually published about a few years ago, and then that was significantly reduced the incidence and also about 70% to reduce the progression. So by the time about 30 weeks, all non-treatment has the full-grown terminal stage of prostate cancer, and highest treatment group is showing only 30% of the full-grown.
They are treated at 3 different levels of green tea consumption: light, middle, and heavy, with heavy being the human equivalent of 8 cups of tea a day.
But to break it down,
Right.
you saw a
Right.
dramatic difference between
Right.
the untreated mice and the ones that were treated.
Right, right. Some Chinese people say, hey, that's the one of reason we have a so low instance of prostate cancer. Actually, they are like 10 times less than Caucasians and African Americans.
When they consume the tea, is it something that builds up in your system and it stays in the system, or is it something you have to continuously be consuming?
I'm not sure that some portion of the green tea was accumulated or they constantly drinking and they always in their system. It probably latter because they are they drinking green tea like water, literally. They rarely drinking like cold water like us. They either drinking soup or green tea.
Dr. Park is also looking into possible genetic causes of cancer.
If your dad or grandpa or your brother have a prostate cancer, your risk goes up to twice, which means your chance is 1 out of 3. So we're trying to find out special sequence of the DNA of that person, so actually we can predict you have a higher chance to get the prostate cancer.
Today, we got to culture some prostate cancer cells the UT students have been using in their studies.
I examined some of the PC3 prostate cancer cells.
What do you see, Kimberly?
I see a bunch of what looks like dots sporadically throughout the container. In order to subculture the cells, you first have to drain the solution that's in the dish.
So right now we're adding a solution of an enzyme called trypsin and a chemical called EDTA. This causes those cells to come loose from the bottom of the plate. And sometimes we give them a little friendly encouragement by tapping a little bit.
Okay.
Let's have a look and see if any of those are loose now. So when I move it around, you see how some of them are loose?
Correct.
So that's what we're waiting for, is for these cells to come loose from the substratum, from the matrix on the plastic dish. Okay, and then back down.
The cells can then be collected and placed into 2 different dishes. One will get the poly-E and one will not. You feel more prestigious just sitting in the chair.
It's the lab coat.
It is. The lab coat, the glasses. All right.
Okay, and that's your treated group. And then we'll let those incubate for 24 hours.
Sure.
And then this time tomorrow, we'll isolate the RNA and the protein from those cells for microarray analysis out at Moffitt for the RNA, and then Western blotting to look at the proteins here at UT.
I checked out the cryo chamber, a canister filled with liquid nitrogen and stored at negative 180 degrees Celsius. This is the polyphenol E they extracted from the tea.
Here, Ethan's loading P73 DNA samples in a ladder marker lane, which is filled with an agarose gel.
DNA molecules then separate. The smaller they are, the faster they move through the gel when an electrofield is applied for about an hour. Here we look through PCR amplified samples for 4 specific variants or isoforms of the P73 gene. That's the one linked to prostate cancer.
Are you looking to somehow introduce poly-E into the market as some sort of vitamin supplement or into sunscreens?
Something that we've sort of had on our mind for some time is using caffeine ointments, is perhaps some sort of a pre or post sun exposure cancer reducing agent.
Obviously, you're not in the business of marketing
Correct.
creams and things like that, but
Patents down the road maybe are a possibility,
Yeah.
but we'll see what
but is
happens.
there anything out there now that, again, your typical viewer watching this can go out and buy or do with things in their own pantry?
Buying a good high quality green tea that actually is green when you brew it and not
Right.
black, for instance.
Have you ever noticed those little green and black bits sinking to the bottom of your tea after it's been sitting a while? Those are actually polyphenols that have oxidized and are falling out of the solution.
That's why it's important to drink the green tea while it's still hot,
Got it.
and the good stuff has not essentially been used up with the oxygen.
It's
and the
so
time
interesting that you say that, because I literally made a cup of green tea before I came here, and I always see that little
Yes.
but only
stuff
towards,
in the
but
bottom.
only after a while.
Yeah,
You
after
don't-
it's been
you
sitting there
don't
for a
see
while.
it at
yeah.
first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's poly-E's that have already oxidated, you're saying?
Those are the polyphenols that have already become oxidized and are falling out of solution, so they're no longer that
Useful.
There's still, I'm sure, plenty of polyphenols in there.
Yeah.
But it's best, you'll get the best benefit from it when you drink it fresh and hot.
So just chug it as soon as you make it.
What I usually do is I brew it and then I pour a little bit of cold water in so I can drink it quickly. Otherwise, it falls out in the bottom.
So if anyone would be interested in hearing more about what you do or perhaps donating to the cause, how would they contact?
I can be contacted at mcarastro@ut.edu.
Thanks for taking the time to show us around the laboratory, Professor Carastro.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure having you both.
Make sure you stay tuned. We'll have more in our Back to Life segment.